I would really like to play in this church, St. Peter. It's a really amazing church, and they have exclusively modern music, contemporary music in the church. So I'd love to perform a piece in there at some stage, but I have to think up something that fits in the space perfectly. So yeah.
I read that you, the trombone found you. This is what you said. You had to pick it in a band, in a school band, right?
Yeah, I wanted to play the clarinet, and there weren't any left basically. And they said, "Yeah, here, I have this trombone." And I thought it was so loud. I was really terrified of it at the start because I was quite a shy kid. But I fell in love with it. It's so lame, but it's true. So I've been playing since I was 12 now.
Do you remember what jazz sounded like to you when you were 12, 13 years old?
Yeah, I remember that my parents gave me a Glenn Miller orchestra CD because they saw some of the trombone on the cover, And I really loved it because it had this really good energy. I still think those arrangements are great, even though it's maybe not considered the coolest stuff to listen to these days. But I really loved that, and I also had a Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald cassette that I used to listen to in the car. And same thing. I mean, the energy just really, really got me, like this positive energy and groove that was in that music. So yeah.
So your schoolmates were listening to pop music, and you were into jazz from the beginning on, or?
I was also very much into pop, and my father is really into like 70s rock and has a big vinyl collection of that. So that was from the start. Also, that was also an influence, I must say. And I still listen to a lot of pop, actually. But the love of jazz started pretty early, I guess. 12 or 13.
And how was this process from being in a school band and probably playing a lot of existing music to starting to write your own stuff?
Well, actually, I had a different experience because in the first band I played in high school, our teacher got us to start composing from the very start, which is, in hindsight, it's unusual. You don't see that very much in high school bands. So we used to have to write small riffs, so small ideas, and then he would help us put them together over a groove. So composing, I actually started that at the same time, like 12 or 13, and something that I've always been really interested in, and I'm still trying to develop it.
So did you just play what you knew from these records that you got from your parents, or was it where was your idea of playing music coming from?
Yeah, I guess from different sources. My teacher at that time, he was really into Miles Davis, so he also played me a lot of Miles Davis records. I think that was the early influence. But also a lot of Afro-Cuban music, so a lot of groove-based stuff, and I feel like that's been a really strong part of my development, actually. Listening to different groove-based, different like rhythmic language is really important to me.
But then you left Australia. Why did you leave Australia?
I left Australia because I wanted to have a different experience, and also I really wanted to study jazz in the United States. I moved there in 2011.
You wanted to study there because you were interested in the tradition of jazz, or the
exactly.
background,
Okay. I wanted to study with some teachers who were really connected to the tradition of jazz in that country, because I thought that seems to be the best place to learn about that, and I felt like it was kind of a gap in my knowledge. I'd played sort of straight ahead jazz before, but in Australia there's also a tradition of creative music making, which was really wonderful. It was a great start, but I just wanted to learn about that kind of specific style. So that was the main reason that I moved there.
And is it difficult if you're in New York and you're confronted with this amazing history of jazz music? Is it difficult to find your own position in there?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think I've thought about that much more in the last few years in terms of race and gender, and actually what my connection is to that music, and I'm talking specifically about the United States American tradition of the music, and how grateful we should be to be able to play that music. It's a very special thing. So I don't know, I've been trying to think about that a lot more, and not just thinking that I have a right to play this music and do whatever I want with it. Like I think it's a hard balance, because I respect the tradition a lot, and also I think that being an improviser, it's important to be able to express your ideas and your opinions as well. So kind of juggling those things is a challenge. Yeah.
So on the one hand, or if you say that you're trying to respect the tradition, does it limit the way in which you can break with it or make it your own?
Well, I think I could give you an example. For some years now, I've been singing old songs, songs from the jazz tradition, and I started paying more attention to the lyrics of them recently, and I've cut a few out of my repertoire because I feel like, okay, actually, it doesn't make sense for me to sing these lyrics for particular songs. Maybe to play them as instrumental songs, just considering those things, which in the past I never did, because I was like, oh, that's a nice melody, I'll just sing it.
But is this something that your teachers made you aware of, or that is discussed in universities?
No.
Yeah.
Not in the States. Yeah. Oh, that's not true. I had one teacher who was actually directly involved in the jazz tradition, I'll put it that way, and he made me aware of some things, and especially in terms of race. So I'm very thankful for that.
Okay. And then you left to Cologne. What made you come here?
I moved here to take up a position with the WDR Big Band, which is based here, and that was the primary reason. I got offered a full-time job as a trombone player, which I had never dreamed that would be possible. So that was a really great experience.
How has your own approach changed since you're working here?
I mean, working in the big band, that really pushed me to develop my technique on the instrument a bit further. So that's changed in the last 4 years. It's kind of tough to maintain it, but playing every day for 4 or 5 hours, that really helps. And also this attention to detail. That's a big change. I think in Australia, for example, there's a big emphasis on creativity and personality in music, and then sometimes maybe not as much attention to detail as here. It's just interesting to compare the different scenes, I think. So I feel like here like I said, I'm paying more attention to detail, the details, the nuances in my playing and composing.
So this is the house where your rehearsal space is?
Yes.
And how long have you been here?
Oh, a couple of years now, I guess.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure, but I think maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Oh, and it's right in front of the King Georg.
Yes.
So your neighbors.
Yes.
Small and cozy.
Yes, it's very small, but it does the job.
So I see you're not the only one practicing in here.
No, I share this space with a great bass player and composer, arranger extraordinaire, Hendrike Enzian.
Ah, okay. Yeah. All right. And, this is your trombone.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is my trombone.
And now you're not only playing the trombone, you're also singing now, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
And is it for you like two completely different instruments or tools, or do they sometimes overlap or cross paths?
There are definitely some similarities, but I think the biggest thing that I realized with singing is how alone you are. No, I mean, you don't have something to hide behind, like with the trombone. It's kind of a protection in some ways, and when you're singing, it's very honest, and you can't hide behind anything. So I think that's probably the main difference for me.
Yeah, and also, I mean, your voice has a very different color than the sound of a trombone. Do you sometimes have the feeling there are similarities in how you use them, or is it completely apart?
Yeah, I mean, on a kind of technical level, the voice and the trombone, on the trombone there's no fixed positions. I mean, you can play it in tune, of course. That's the goal. But you have the option to move the sound around and bend and play with it, and that you can also do that with the voice. Yeah. So in that way, they're both very flexible instruments.
Yeah. And I was reading in an interview with you that the trombone is not the typical lead instrument, and you would like to challenge this. This was in an interview, but can you remember what connected you first to the trombone, and how has maybe over the years has it changed how you're working with it?
There's a little bit to unpack there. I think in jazz history, trombone hasn't always been the focus of, especially in small groups. Yeah. And I think that's changed in the last 20 to 30 years, I guess, a little bit more. And I think that the creative options that you have with this instrument are kind of yet to be discovered. There's more to be discovered. So I'm excited try and be part of that development of the instrument. And the other part was what attracted me to the instrument, or I forgot now what you said.
Or maybe you say there's still a lot to be found out how to use it, and maybe you can break down how it has been for you in the last years. How did your approach to using it change?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in a lot of different types of music. I'm very grateful for that. And the trombone has played really different roles in those types of music. So, for example, I had a long career, that's not the right word. I spent a long time playing big bands, and there the trombone is really part of a texture. You know, you play with 3 other trombones together and then part of a 16-piece band. And that role is really different to playing, for example, in a quartet, where there's, like in my quartet, there's saxophone, bass and drums, and so obviously the role is really different there, and you also have more freedom in these smaller ensembles. But they all, there's all interesting parts to all of those bands, I guess, the different roles you can play in. Or also I played a long time, I played salsa music for a long time when I was living in Melbourne, and that's a completely different role again, like rhythmic and it was very loud. So I don't know, I feel like I've been really lucky to experience that, like play in lots of different situations and I try to take different things from each of those situations and apply them going forward. And there's also a tap dance school in the other room.
So tell me a little bit about the projects you're involved in right now.
Well, I have 2 of my own projects. I have a quartet, which is with Stefan Schmidt, David Helm and Fabian Ahrens. We just recorded a new album.
Ooh.
And
when is it coming out?
Yeah, probably next year sometime. I'm not sure yet. And I also have a project, another quartet actually, which is called Wolves and Mirrors. And that's with Eli Kudu, cello, and Correia, trumpet, and Thomas Sauber, drums. And I'm playing trombone and singing as well. So.
Okay.
They're the 2 main projects. We also just recorded an album, so I'm hoping that one will come out also pretty soon.
And what is the process like when you're writing or creating music with these people? Is it that everyone prepares something by themselves and brings ideas, or does it start completely from scratch in improvisation?
There's sort of different methods, but I guess, for example, with my quartet, with the saxophone, bass and drums, often I'll bring unfinished pieces in and we'll work on them together and try and find the best solution, musical solution. I really like that. I really like the collaborative aspect of that. I guess in the Wolves project, because the instrumentation is a little unusual, there are not so many bands with that exact lineup. I think the band members, they try out a lot of different things in different roles that they might not normally do. Like sometimes the trumpet is actually having a more rhythmic role, almost like a bass or drums, and then the cello is sometimes becoming a chordal instrument and playing more than one note. So I mean, because we're working to frame the songs I've written, so that's kind of a slightly different way of working compared to the quartet, because the lineup there is a little more familiar and there are a lot of references that you can use. So and things that you can kind of not rely on, but there's a precedent, I guess, for that lineup. So that makes for a different working situation.
And what's your connection to the Ebertplatz?
Well, this is not far from my rehearsal space, and I like to come here because there's several galleries here and that present different artworks and also sometimes music. And they also present concerts here sometimes in the Ebertplatz. I mean, it's a good central spot for the community, I think. Not that it's had its problems, I'd say, and it continues to have some problems, but the idea of a space where people can come and make things together is, I think, so important for society, actually. So, like I said, there's sometimes concerts here, and that's really interesting to see because sometimes they're advertised and people know and they definitely go to the concert. I mean, intentionally go to the concert. And other times there's just stuff happening and people just see it and stop, And I find that really interesting because then you see people from all walks of life coming past and checking out what's going on. Just the idea that exists, I think, is so important in the city.
And what's the music like that's played here?
It's very varied. There's a lot of, I mean, I don't want to give things names really. There's a varied assortment of things that go on here. From krautrock, I've seen a couple of krautrock bands play here, to more free improvisation, experimental things, and also some kind of groove band. I don't want to describe them, they're all sound like silly words now, but it's definitely, there are a lot of different directions that people go in musically, and they're often represented here, I would say.
Are you following any other artistic scenes in Cologne?
I'm trying to, yeah. I mean, I recently went to a concert of the ensemble Garage, which is a new music ensemble, and they did a performance. It was actually like an experience, really, where you walked around through different rooms, and it was called, I think it's called Deep Relaxation, Deep Listening. And,
I heard about this.
That was really cool, and
it was also a workshop, right?
Well, the part of it was kind of a meditation workshop, So that's not something that I would normally do on I think it was a Thursday night or a Wednesday night. And that was really interesting, and I made contact with them through, because I played in a project with the viola player who plays in that. So then that's something that I normally wouldn't go and see. So that was really cool. And then also recently I came across an author, Kamera Dubrovnik. She won an award which was presented at the same time as Theresia Philipp won the prize from the Stadt Köln and Boston Stipendium. And so that was another way that I found, an author, wow, and she's an incredible writer and performer as well. And that's something that I also don't normally come across. So I don't know, you have to be active about it, I think. You have to actively find out what's happening in the city. Yeah.
But you yourself, you've also been working interdisciplinary, right?
Yes.
Like
sometimes, yeah.
In a circus.
I did work in a circus, for about a year in Australia.
How did this happen?
I can't even remember how I got into it, but I worked with Circus Oz for a year, and we made a project. I mean, the way they always work there is they create a show from the ground up. So musicians working with acrobats collaboratively, and part of my role was also to teach some acrobats, or not teach them how to play instruments, but incorporate them playing instruments into the work as well. And they also helped me learn some acrobatic skills. This is some years ago now, but yeah.
And now you're teaching. How would you describe your Lehre? How would you describe your way of teaching?
How would I describe it? I guess open. I'm very interested in learning what my students are interested in, and trying to encourage them to pursue different paths, and not trying to mold them into one shape,
Yeah.
Because there's so many different types of music, and people have different needs and different interests. So I try to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Like I think most teachers, you try to be true to your own beliefs and what you think music and art can do for the world, and trying to encourage them to incorporate that into their own musical lives.
And is there anything that you've learned from your students?
I learn something from them almost every day. Whether it be about music that I've never heard or before, or or different technical exercises that they've learned from somebody else and they pass on. I think in my class, we're very good at exchanging ideas as well. We get together as well as a group, so when it's possible. So we're all exchanging ideas all the time. I think that's really healthy. It's a really healthy energy, actually.